do is start by kind of trimming off the extra material in this direction. If you've got it so that there's less than a 1/16, you should probably be able to do that in one pass. It looks like this one has a little bit more material than that, so I'm gonna just come out a little and just work straight down. See that? Little itty bitty bits. Do the same thing on this side. Trimming off my extra. Try not to go off to the edge of your shoulder because you can damage the shoulder with your tools very easily. But once you've got that initial cut that way, come back in straight across the bottom, and if anything, tip up ever so slightly so that you're not mashing down on that shoulder, and cut straight across. When I cut, I don't cut by pushing in like this. I slice. So I'm going in forward, but it's almost a circular motion. It makes a much, much cleaner cut, and it gives me a lot of reference area there for everything to kind of come together. But you go down, and then you can either kind of go across with a little wiggle if it's not too deep. And when I clear that material, then I can come back in, really pressing hard against the back here so that that flat continuous plane is going. I need there to be no step between what's on there and the cheek. So if there is a little bit of a step going straight up and down, maybe there's a tiny bit of a curve on the front here, it's all right to kind of lift up and shear as long as there's no, like a nice continuous surface there. There should be no step at all, because that's going to affect the fit really a lot. So you'll notice I'm staying off the very edge. I'm just in a little. So the thing about fitting mortises and tenons too is that everything affects fit. If you're like, but I've got it so beautiful, but you've got all this material kind of just like sitting there looking innocuous, it's probably keeping something from fitting correctly. So it's not a question of removing most of the material, you got to remove all of it. So like, if you look right there, can you guys see it? Okay.
Yeah, it was too focused.
Okay. So this right here, how there's nothing in that transition, that's ideal. Even little crap like what's up there can make a difference in fit. So I'm going to pass this around real fast so you guys can see that. And definitely compare it to the other side, which hasn't been really dealt with much at all. So I'm looking for this incredibly clean, incredibly sharp transition from the one to the next. And of course, if you're going to do a lot of these, you can speed this up by being a little more accurate in terms of your setup. You can be like, nope, I'm going to get a little closer to my tenon. I'm going to, whatever, so that you have less material that you need to trim. That can help. Because you will still have to do this step for everything, If you're cutting tenons, this is a thing, okay? When I say if you're cutting tenons, it's a thing, what I mean by that too is that if you're gonna do a floating tenon or a slip tenon or a loose tenon, depending on its term, that is just two mortises that are back to back with a piece of wood that bridges that, in which case you're not doing this. You're creating stock that fits all the way through, right? So, this side now, do that one. Yeah, so this step is taking the step off of the cheeks. I guess would be the way I would phrase that. Remove the step from the cheeks. And eventually that whole shoulder is going to be all the same height. Come on, darling.
Is there other machines that maybe we don't have that people do to make tenons, like commercially, like just make a lot of them?
Honestly, commercially, everyone uses slip tenons. It's easier to just set up matching mortises. But stability-wise, this is really the way to go. But yeah, for manufacture, always loose tenons. There are special routers that can be set up to actually route around the end of something. Kind of follows off of a bearing. But that's not terribly common. It really is just more common, but everybody gets a hole. Everybody gets a hole. So I'm having to do a little bit of a pull there. I'm just trying really, really hard not to mess up my shoulder, like at all. If I dig into it, if I roll it over, if I do something, it's gonna be messed up. Anyway.
Hey, sorry, I just need to come get carpet tape.
I'm sorry?
I just need to get carpet tape.
Might be in my office at the moment, just because people like to think it's
Regular tape.
regular tape. And it's expensive.
In upholstery, are we gonna make stuff like this, like that involves like make the furniture and then do upholster it?
Kind of, yeah. But it can also be something really, really simple and stupid, like, oh, I threw this together out of 2x4s and some screws. This is more for stuff that's going to be really visible and high grade.
Okay.
Upholstery, to be entirely candid, it can be shit underneath.
Like
It gets completely covered. Well, not cardboard necessarily, not for a structural thing.
Or something.
Yeah.
Stuff it with hair or something.
Yeah.
Crappy 2x4s.
Crappy 2x4s, really, really crappy plywood. It doesn't matter. If it's got enough glue, enough screws, enough bracing in it, you're gonna cover it with the good stuff. And that's what actually matters. So, yeah, it's part of why I enjoy it as much as I do, is it doesn't really matter what's underneath. All right, so I've got those two faces nice and clean. Now I need to clean up that set of steps right there.
Sorry.
That's okay. So this has to go away. This is the scary one because I need the sharpest chisel I've got and I need all of my skill. I'm going to pare this off in tiny little layers, okay? So what I do is I start right on the corner. See that?
Would you still stay with that wide chisel if you had a narrow one?
If I had a narrower one, I could use it. The thing I would be afraid of is dipping down, just always. So I'm going to stick with this wider one, at least for right now, because I'm going to get a longer stroke out of it. Look, and I'm just barely taking off the world's smallest end grain shaving. Do you guys see how I'm doing that? Like, really pay attention to my hands here, okay? Because I'm holding everything really specifically, I'm doing everything really specifically, and if you do this wrong, you're gonna end up with a chisel in your palm, okay? So, I'm setting it up on the corner. Look, I'm choked all the way up with my dominant hand. I set it on the corner, and I just kind of shave in a circle. And I use my thumb of my non-dominant hand to help push. It's okay if you kind of like chunk into your tenon a little bit. What's not okay is doing it into the shoulder, okay? And I am just gonna shave off little itty bitty bits at a time. So I'll sometimes do the middle and then come back to the edge to kind of, you know, work that a little bit thinner.
Is it not okay to shave into the shoulder just for appearance's sake?
Yes, because you're gonna leave little divots. We want the shoulder as unmolested as possible. And I'm being extra careful because I actually haven't done this in a while. So So another method I'm employing right now is I'm using the edge to take little chunks, and I'm working my way across. So instead of trying to work everything flat at the same time, what I'm doing is taking the edge of the chisel and going chunk and removing a bit, and then moving it over and doing the same thing. So I'm kind of eating my way back and forth, but regardless, I'm still above the shoulder. So important. And all I'm trying to do is hog off enough extra material that I'm going to be able to get to the point where I am using the flat back of my chisel as a reference on the shoulder and making it the same. But I can't do that if there's too much material there. And another reason why it's absolutely critical that you're using a super sharp chisel. Pairing end grain is terrible in more ways than one. Tear, able as well, because it tears like crazy. All right, I have it down far enough now that without too much effort, I can get back in here and kind of roll my way around the corner. You see that? So I'm kind of working the whole thing, corner, around, corner, until I'm able to work my way in. I don't try to do the whole thing at once. That's a really good way to just F this up really strongly. See, like that. I just nicked it right there. It'll be a little bit visible. It won't be ideal, but there are worse things. I am in a hurry and I am out of practice. So that would be a good reason for an argument for doing a narrower chisel, is not touching the edges like that. But I like it for having enough reference all the way across. There we go. There we go. Okay. So that now feels nice and continuous. And then I do the same thing on the other side. It's time consuming. Like, this is taking me a while, and I've done this hundreds of times.
Should we get up close to you so I know?
No, that's fine. That way you can see. What are you?
It was. Yeah, I don't think that's what she wanted either.
Oh, come on. There we go. So I'm not wasting my time as much on this one, and I'm being a little more aggressive, working my way across. I have a YouTube channel.
Did you have to teach this during COVID on YouTube, or how did you do that?
I practically didn't. No, everything was in person. And I did have things recorded, and we would post them so that people could keep up, but
Oh, so people still came?
yeah, they had to. We just limited the number of people that could take the classes and moved the tables further apart. And I did my level best to mandate masks, even when we couldn't do that anymore. Played my cancer card and said, I'm sick, don't do it. All right, so I have that all trimmed reasonably well. Might be able to do a little bit more that way. Yep. Trying to get it continuous. Not bad. All right. So now I've got a really pretty decent set of transitions there.
Do you want us to pass it around?
Yes.